John, yesterday, as this news was breaking, I mean, it was swirling just all over the media, all over the country. What did you think, hearing the announcement from the FBI that some partial human remains were found, but we don't know that it is Brian Laundrie? Your thoughts on what was revealed and what we just heard in that report from our affiliate?
Well, I have to say that despite the fact that there have been weeks of speculation that he was dead, once again, the way my mind works, I like to kind of withhold all my opinions and not make judgments based on speculation. However, I do have to admit at this point, when you consider the proximity to his personal belongings, it does appear that this chapter is coming to a close, pending the DNA analysis in this case.
Right. And when they said partial, of course, a million things run through our minds. I mean, we don't know the time of death for this individual, whoever it is, whether it's Brian Laundrie or someone else. So we don't know if the remains were eaten. We know this area is full of alligators. It's a swampland. It's very dangerous. It was partially underwater. But the thing that kind of gets me is that on Tuesday, the Laundrie parents indicated they wanted to head to this certain trail where they know their son would frequent, and they suddenly discover these two items there. Now, what do you think, John?
I mean, and I have to say, once again, as much as I don't like to speculate, that is suspicious. I mean, I would like to think that law enforcement has been doing their job and monitoring the family's communications with all cell phone numbers, all known and unknown numbers, and tried to verify the identity of those calls. Of course, there's always a possibility that, there's some kind of plan to kind of throw police off the trail and plan items or something like that. And that's why I like to hear me say, I don't like to rush to judgment. I mean, I think too often there's just desire and this need to have an instant response and answer to things where we need to just kind of take our time. I think law enforcement should continue the manhunt, and until there's some type of, confirmed analysis that these other remains, assume that he is still alive and at large.
I hear you, John. I've said all along, I thought he's out of the country. And I'm still not convinced that he's not. I'm really not, especially in light of the fact that the parents found these items. They helped law enforcement find these items, and we just happened to find some remains that are partial remains. Let's take a look at a clip from the press conference and hear what the FBI had to say.
As you're aware, the FBI and the Northport Police Department and our state and local law enforcement partners have been searching the area of the Carlton Reserve for Brian Laundrie, a person of interest in the murder of Gabby Petito. Earlier today, investigators found what appears to be human remains, along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie. These items were found in an area that up until recently had been underwater. Our evidence response team is on scene using all available forensic resources to process the area. It's likely the team will be on scene for several days. I know you have a lot of questions, but we don't have all the answers yet. We are working diligently to get those answers for you. We are grateful for the dedication and professionalism of the Northport Police Department, along with our partners from the state and local agencies. Complex investigations such as this cannot be accomplished by one agency alone, but there are just too many agencies to name them all here today. Portions of the Myakkahatchee Creek Environment Park and Carlton Reserve will remain closed to the public until further notice. This is an active and ongoing investigation, so we ask the public to maintain distance from any law enforcement personnel, equipment, vehicles, and other related activity for the safety of the public and to protect the integrity of our work. We have no additional comment related to today's activities.
Okay, John, any reaction just to hearing that little clip we played from the presser, please?
A couple different things. One, I guess the follow-up we kind of talked about with the possibility of the parents, maybe planting some personal items near those remains. That if it did happen, it should not have been allowed to happen. I would have assumed that law enforcement, and I'll say it again, does their job, and I would assume they would have had the family under surveillance this entire time. So if that was the case, they should not have been allowed to do anything at all like this. The second question I have is whether or not Doing the interviews with law enforcement, the family advised law enforcement that this was a trail that Brian Laundrie frequented. And if they didn't, that's fine. But if they did, obviously law enforcement should have, inspected that area on multiple occasions. And the question would be whether or not, if they did, whether or not those items are present before or mysteriously appeared, at some point afterwards.
Definitely. Something that I thought of as you were talking, John, was when you said the word surveillance, my ears perked up. Let's go back to the time when Gabby Petito is reported missing. Law enforcement goes to question Brian Laundrie. He lawyers up, which is his right. And then law enforcement starts surveilling him. Yet he's able to get away from his parents' house. And there are so many theories about how that happened. There are some theories that because media and law enforcement was supposedly watching the house, that maybe he hid in the trunk of a car. Did his parents help get him out? And I know you've said, and I respect what you say about not wanting to speculate. We don't want you to do that either. But let's just take a set of facts and kind of analyze it. Let's just say, for the sake of our analysis, that there was some assistance in getting him out of the house, out of the view of law enforcement, whether it was by friends, by family, whoever it was. What charges legally could someone face if they did help someone escape law enforcement surveillance and then run from an investigation?
Well, I think the only real crime in facts like that would be, perhaps hindering an investigation, because we have to keep in mind, although he was a person of interest, he wasn't charged with a crime. Right. He was just someone that was a person of interest. So, it's not uncommon. And I think if you're defending the person that did that, I think you can reasonably take the position that, listen, there's a lot of attention, to this particular person. There's media everywhere. And, he can't go anywhere without being hounded by media and the press. And, hey, this is our way to kind of get him someplace where he could be free from that type of harassment. And that's a very legitimate position to take. Families have to deal with that on a regular basis. So I think the most that they could probably be charged with is some type of hindering the investigation. I wouldn't say misprision of a felony unless there's some real evidence they had knowledge he committed the crime. So I think that they're looking at best.